want to go across to Sushant. Sareen, when we spoke on the phone, Sushant, your view was that, yes, it is quite plausible that Hamas attacked Israel at this time, amongst various reasons, also because of the India, Middle East, Europe corridor. Can you explain to our viewers why you think that what President Biden is saying could possibly be true?
So, Rahul, let me just clarify. Look, the preparation for an attack of this magnitude could not have happened between the time when the G20 summit takes place in Delhi and the attacks take place. That is just about 4 weeks. So you can certainly not do all the preparations for an attack in 4 weeks. This would have been months, maybe years in making. But I would imagine that the fact that in the G20 there was a major project which was unveiled, which was the India, Middle East, Europe corridor, which in many ways, at least in my view, is going to be quite a game changer. And a project which irritates the hell out of countries like Turkey, countries like Iran, countries like Pakistan, and many of these countries which have had some links or very deep links with the Hamas, and would like to muddy the waters in the Middle East, even though countries like Iran, for example, are kissing and making up with the Saudis. But the fact that parallelly, the Saudis and the Israelis were also, getting closer together, and there was a lot of talk that they would normalize relations, they would recognize each other and have diplomatic presence in each other's countries, something which would have given a further fillip to the IMEC corridor. And I would imagine that maybe it is to blow that apart. So those projects and those developments have acted as a catalyst for bringing about this kind of an attack. The final preparation of the attack would have taken a couple of weeks, which is fair enough. But getting all those thousands of rockets, getting all the other infrastructure in place, that would have taken years. But I would not be surprised if what happened in New Delhi was the catalyst for this attack.
Abhijit Iyer Mitra, do you think that is quite conceivable that what happened in Delhi could have been the catalyst for this attack? Now, President Biden is saying, the conspiracy theory on this is that President Biden wants to ensure that India very strongly stays on board with Israel and the United States on this. While the Prime Minister came out strong in favor of Israel initially, since then the Indian government has been trying to ensure that they also seen in support of the Palestinian cause. And Biden, by saying this, is linking it with India, trying to ensure that India stays fully on board with Israel. What's your reading, Abhijit?
Right. So I don't think the IMEC corridor was the actual catalyst. I think that catalyst had appeared sometime before. We can't be sure when the order for the attack was given, but we certainly know that the actual forward deployment of assets and the forward, emplacement of the human assets would have taken at least about 2 months, but more like about 3.5 months. And one of the reasons for that is, we know from photographs and things like that how Hamas stores these rockets and how they transport these rockets. For 3,500 almost total rockets fired, almost 7,000 so far, for them to be launched on a given day, it would require several months because they don't transport these rockets in bulk, you see. That triggers a lot of Israeli human and electronic intelligence on the ground. So what happens is they have to be brought piecemeal, sometimes in different pieces out to different locations. And the problem is Gaza is also full of Israeli human informants. So, deploying a rocket at any given place for any length of time, it's a tiny place. People don't realize that Gaza is only 1/4 the size of Delhi. So, it's almost like the difference between inner ring road and outer ring road, all the way from, the Noida bridge to Gurgaon, basically. That's the size of Gaza. And in this, it's very easy for 2.5 million Gazans to find something and for one of them to be an Israeli and rat out a location. While the humans would have been prepared for several years, getting them together in collection points and things would have been much more rapid. But given that the rockets were used as cover fire, I think would mean that something else was the trigger. We need to remember...
What's your best sense of what that trigger could have been? While we're in the realm of speculation, but what's your sense in terms of probability?
I think it was a collection of interests. Certainly, Sushant is right when he says, that this IMEC corridor was probably the straw that broke the camel. I don't think it was a straw that broke the camel's back, but it adds to a whole set of interests that regional players have. Remember, Qatar has been cut out of this. Qatar houses the offices of Hamas. And Qatar and this particular energy alliance is oil and gas, solar energy, and data, in addition to goods. That would mean Qatar gets cut out, which is very dangerous for them. And it provides everybody else a very easy transport route, whereas Qatari oil has to, it has to circumnavigate the entire Arab Peninsula and then take its oil and gas through to Europe. It was very dangerous for Turkey because Turkey, again, has several gas pipelines running from Azerbaijan and Central Asia through West. It was very important for Russia, remember, because Russia needed some kind of a conflagration somewhere else so that American weapons supplies could be put into a dilemma. Do they supply Ukraine or do they supply Israel? Iran has a very important, interest in this, in that, you might say Iran might have no role initially because Hamas is a Sunni Muslim Brotherhood organization and Iran is Shia. And, the two hate each other probably more than they hate Israelis. The problem there is, it is classic Iranian tactic to allow somebody a victory so that they also take the fall. Inflict a huge blow on Israel and allow them to get hammered while you benefit geopolitically from Israel. So Israel gets hit very badly, but Hamas, which is your biggest sort of ideological opponent in the region, ideological competitor, not opponent in the region, gets destroyed.
Sushant?
So, it's kind of hitting two birds with one stone.
Given that the normalization of ties between Saudi Arabia and Israel has been put on hold for the foreseeable future, what does that mean for the future of the India-Middle East economic corridor? It was a very nascent idea in any case. Now that this war has started and Israel's actions are being questioned in the Arab world, to what extent does this push back idea, or could it derail the idea completely?
No, I don't think so. All my sources in Saudi Arabia.
One at a time. Let Sushant answer first. I'll come to you in just a moment, Abhijit. Sushant.
I don't think it will derail the idea, but let me just join issue with my friend Abhijit on the Iran question. You see, forget about Hamas. Let's talk about Taliban. Taliban was next door. The Iranians, for many, many years, continued to play footsie with the Taliban. They supported them. They backed them. They gave them sanctuary. They gave them support, despite the fact that the Taliban were an out-and-out rabid Sunni organization. The same thing the Iranians did to some extent with the Al-Qaeda, and they even allowed many of the ISIS element to travel through Iran into Afghanistan. So Iranians will also try and protect their own geopolitical interests when they identify an enemy. So their ability to deal with Hamas, even though they might not have an ideological connection with them, I don't think that is something which would hold them back from initiating an attack like this at a time like this. Number one. On the IMEC question, look, I don't think this thing is going to go away simply because, Rahul, I believe that this is a very viable and a very profitable project. It is a project that works for all the countries which are going to be part of it. Number one. Number two, I don't think the Saudis are anybody's fools. The Saudis understand the game that the Iranians are playing. They understand that the Iranians want to push them into a particular corner where they then take the leadership role as far as the Islamic world is concerned. And the fact that Saudi Arabia itself is making a massive transition from what it was to what it wants to be under the leadership of MBS.